troubleshooting that needs to be done.
Yeah, so I'm gonna. Alright, so I'm just gonna move this over a little bit, but not too much. I'll move it back when I'm.
No, you're fine.
Can you pick anything up?
What's that?
Can you pick up the
Yes.
violin? Oh, cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool, cool, cool. Okay.
Let me know when. Are you live right now?
Yeah.
So let me know when, like, do you want to introduce you at all beforehand, or do you want to just play? And then when you come back.
Yeah, when I come back. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
What I'll do then.
So whenever I feel like I'm in a recording, well, I am in a recording studio, but I mean like recording a piece, like session work. I'm like waiting for the go, but I can just start.
I'll tell you.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm gonna stop this song, slowly come down. Ooh, the monotones, they're classic. Okay, so 1 second, Laura.
Sure, sure, sure.
This thing, and then I'll walk over. Whenever you're ready, Laura, you can go.
So that was piece one. And I'd like to play one more because I'm here in New York. So that first piece was the Jig. It was the last movement of the Bach E major partita. And now I'd like to play Recuerdo New York, which means I Remember New York. And it's by Astor Piazzolla. And he's remembering like 1930s New York. So you can like imagine the big cars and everything.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for doing that.
Of course, yeah. So I guess we'll have a seat.
Yeah,
And then we'll
she's
start
gonna-
to talk.
This is Dr. Laura Patillo, Music Programs Manager for the Basie Center for the Arts. She just performed a couple of pieces for us. Thanks for coming in. She commuted in today, which I really appreciate. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, of course, of course. And this is working, right? That's like
Sounds great.
It's like testing, 1,
Yeah.
2, 3, right?
Nope, you sound great. One of the things that stuck out on your IG account to me is the whole violin, because I think violin's such a beautiful instrument. How did you get started with such a specialized instrument? I'm just curious, was it family? Before we get into the nuts and bolts of the interview, I always get curious about how an artist starts with their creativity.
Right. So you mentioned family, and you're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
I come from a musical family. So my father, Patrick Apello, is a classical guitarist and a flamenco guitarist, and he actually studied at Manhattan School of Music for a
Cool.
while in Menace, yes. So I grew up hearing classical guitar being practiced over and over and over again, and everyone in the family was questioning, well, what's your main instrument going to be? So for a while it was flute, and then I got braces, and I said, ouch, this is kind of painful. So then I was starting to see the violin everywhere, and it was like what they say, like that small voice. And it was just telling me, like, this is going to be your home instrument. And it's funny because a lot of my family members in the beginning, not that they didn't believe me, because again, I came from a musical family, but they knew what it takes to study the violin. So they were like, Laura, are you sure? Like, sometimes you look at a clock and it's hard for you to tell time.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to tell time in the sheet music, and the repertoire is so hard. But I picked up a violin that was under my uncle's piano. My uncle, Philip DeLuca, he had a master's in music, and he was an excellent pianist, like amazing. And he had a lot of violins that the students would use, and he had some of them under his piano, and I took it out, and I was able to play and do the angles of the strings. And I was like 12, which is late, actually, for some people to start.
Yeah.
Although, shout out to anybody starting violin or starting music now, it's all good. But it was one of those things that just clicked, and it felt right, and I decided to continue with it. Little did I know at the time that the teachers who were teaching me violin were teaching me both the instrument technique, but also the pedagogy, however you want to say it, for what it means to be a teacher and a music teacher. And even like different ways of speaking or treating me or building my confidence, given that I was 12 and I was embarking on this very hard lifelong journey that I think I'm still working on, So that's how I got started.
Do you play any other instruments now, or is it exclusively
along
violin?
The journey?
Yeah.
Especially with my interest in, like, I played Bach before.
Yeah.
And I studied Baroque violin for a long time. And there's an instrument that some people refer to as the cousin of the cello. It's called the viola da gamba, and it has frets and 6 strings and gut strings on it.
Yeah.
And so I played Baroque violin and some viola da gamba for about 4 or 5 years with the New York Continuo Collective.
Cool.
And they're still in action today. They put on Baroque operas. They go over what the chords are on lute. So I caught what was called the early music bug. I just loved early music, things with gut strings, like what did it sound like in their time. And so I picked up viola da gamba. I stuck with flute, violin. I also sang, and some piano.
Oh, so you've done
and guitar.
Yeah.
That one I tried first when I was 7, but the action, like the string height, it was so high, it just hurt. It hurt too much to press down. So now I'm very sensitive to all the sensory needs of the students I teach, or even at our music school. I keep that in mind when they're trying to find the instrument that works for them. And it's something I think adults should reflect and think back about too. Like, it was just always hard for me to play violin, or I tried to learn guitar, I tried to learn piano. It's like, right, but you're judging yourself at a time when your fine motor and your cognitive abilities, like, they weren't fully formed yet. So go for it, try it again.
Yeah. One thing I want to talk about that you brought up too, and I think it's interesting, is creativity in a career.
Yes.
Some people think, unfortunately, creativity and career is an oxymoron. If you could talk about keeping that alive in your career too.
Yes. So in any career, I think if you work in business or in nonprofit
Yeah.
or like there's lots of things and there's lots of different job opportunities that I certainly know when I was in my undergraduate, I didn't fully comprehend. I didn't fully comprehend how the world worked, but I knew something creative was something that was like a fire, a passion burning inside of me. I had to do something creative. And I think the key is that there actually is always an element of creativity in any task or in any job that you have. It's about seeking it out, and I think it's about being open-minded enough to realizing it's there. So, I mean, hey, if you're working in like marketing or social media, I mean, there's so many vibrant colors that can allude to paintings, or if you're working in education, there are strategies for combining music and art or theater and lots of different creative facets into your teaching. I saw a math teacher take a Taylor Swift song and change the lyrics and have the kids count by 3. So it's like, yeah, so
and that's smart.
Right, right. So I think it's about going there, not being afraid to go there and to bring the creativity into, you know, your place of work. But the balance I notice the most is about musicians who are like, I wish I could eat, live, and breathe music and do it 24/7. And any advice I would give someone who's in college right now, or any advice I'd even give somebody who just graduated and they're trying to find the balance, I think if your heart's in the right place, I think, you know, teaching is very rewarding and it's very like meaningful, because you walk away at the end of the day feeling like you impacted a younger person's life in such an amazing way. And the thing is that early childhood or elementary, I mean, the hours just work better with, you know, your life to try to balance the work and the creative like aspects. So I'll explain. So the typical school day, even though you have to wake up kind of early, the school lets out around 2:30 or 3 o'clock maybe. That would give somebody plenty of time in the evening to go to that orchestra rehearsal, you know, to go to that amazing like artist meetup somewhere. So there's like lots of things that we know that happen from 4 o'clock on, and you can fit it there. So that's like the work-life balance way to approach it. But I'm a big believer that, you know, it's not like if you build it, they will come, but it's like seek and find. It's that relationship. If you're a creative type person, if you have a passion for it, you will be able to find a way to see it through what you're doing for your career. Yeah.
What is your current view on the music industry? Where do you see
that?
it?
Wow. Well,
because technology is the impact, right, is crazy.
So with music industry, it's giving more people a voice. I think when people start to talk about like the big words about inclusivity or about everybody having to take part and show what kind of music they have, what kind of talents they want to use to their best ability, I think there's now more of a place for everybody in music industry, because like you said, I mean, you can just buy recording equipment, do it yourself at home. If you come up with songs and you want to record them, it's like nothing's holding you back. But then part 2, I also think when it comes to the professional level music industry, not just what you can do at home if you're passionate, right? When it comes to the professional level and people talk about record labels and contracts, what's interesting is I think those people know that those contracts that used to be able to hold artists under a thumb, it's kind of like away with the dinosaurs, so to speak, and they know there's a lot of freedom and that people can be self-starters. So now I think those agents and those companies, those industries, I think they are willing to compromise and they're willing to listen to a lot more people than maybe in the past, like when we think about like those big record labels and people are like, I landed a contract and there's all this competition. I think, like I said, I think the doors are open a lot wider than they used to be, and that's a good thing. You know, that's a good thing. Music industry too, for me though, it also is connected to gigging and classical music and all these other facets. And something that I think the bigger music industry is starting to appreciate is what I'd call community music and about local artists. and local people who they do an art, they're very passionate, they give something back through their music, and that should be recognized on a larger level, especially if what they have to say has any kind of bigger meaning for, let's say, I mean, maybe saying for humanity is like a little bit of a stretch, but you know what I'm referring to. Like if they're taking a stand on something or saying what they believe in, then someone who's like a local community artist, they could really expand. They could really be kind of found, you know. It's not like the 1940s where someone was found in the apothecary soda shop with the sitting drinking a milkshake and some record producers like, we want you, like it's
with
you
the
know
old gumshoe hat and
it's a little easier. It's a little easier than back then. Right.
Do you think when it comes to music education, as for people who are just joining us, we're talking to Laura Patillo, Music Programs Manager for the Basie Center for the Arts. Do you view it as almost as a way of you paying it forward? Like thinking back to when you were young and the great teachers you had. Do you view it as that for you? At least one aspect of it?
Oh my gosh. My family would tell you guys that I practically, it's practically like a movie, like you're living in a fantasy dream to have someone pass amazing skills and knowledge to you, and then it's that circle of life analogy when you are suddenly the adult and you have all the same skills and attributes they did, but it's your own style, and then you're passing that on. It's just amazing. It's kind of like what is the line, to those to whom much is given, much is required, but having that's an honor though. So that's the thing. Like, for example, I've had many violin teachers, but the one that stuck out to me most, and as I was setting up, I was mentioning her, was Irina Kowalski. And she went to, before it was when it couldn't be St. Peter's, when it was Leningrad Conservatory of Music. So she came over to the United States in the 80s, and then she helped support the school I went to, the Monmouth Conservatory. And when I studied with her, she gave master classes and played before amazing violinists like Yehudi Menuhin, who's one of the most famous, most elegant, really, and he was an amazing person. But the fact that she's like in this kind of lineage, so to speak, and what she passed on to me and those skills stay with me, and I give them to my students. I even have little things she used to say, or little ways there are even things where I studied how she taught, not just how she played violin, because and I have a picture of it actually, she could play violin backwards. So she would rearrange her hands like this way, and then the student would see what it looked like to like mold and put down the fingers, and then they could do it better. It was like unbelievable
No, that's
stuff.
a gift,
Yeah. So she's like, oh, Lorichka, come over here and show me how. And I would literally play backwards, and I can still do it. It's very cool. But there's that ideology about like, oh, there's like this kind of this lineage, like a line of kings or something, right? But then there's another way to look at it and teaching where it's like somebody had bestowed the gift of kindness and empathy onto you when you maybe as a child or someone learning was the vulnerable person, and then all this kindness and everything, there's like this pay it forward. So whether it's even like at the Basie Center for the Arts, we have this beautiful class where and it's through another program called Arc of Monmouth, and students who have all different abilities and needs are learning drumming and like African drumming rhythms and dancing around the room. And hey, maybe if one of them grows up to be an aspiring drummer, regardless of their abilities or disabilities, if the passion shines through, and even in a group class setting, if they learned how to play those drums and those rhythms, who knows?
That's a win.
That's a win, and then they could grow up and be a teacher too. So for me, it doesn't necessarily have to be some sort of really like fancy, like I said, so-and-so studied with so-and-so who studied with so-and-so. Like I said, I think there's something powerful about community music and musicians in communities and teachers in communities. Like the movie Mr. Holland's Opus. Like what he meant, and how then some students it just gives them confidence, and then they can grow up and do other things. whether it's like just, to be a great parent to their child or to go into some field of public speaking, like politics, or to teach higher ed, that kind of thing.
Your time at grad school and balancing that with music. You can talk about that.
Yes, yeah. So, and to anybody listening, I strongly recommend, please think about grad school. The journey doesn't have to just end when you get your undergraduate. So I found myself listening to the advice of one of the Baroque violinists that I played with in the New York Continuo Collective. And he said to me, I said to him, how do you make this work? Like, this is so wonderful. And he said, I am a kindergarten teacher. And I said, really? He said, yes, I'm a kindergarten teacher, and then I play Baroque violin as well. So I decided to do that same life path because I had an epiphany, and I said, hey, I actually really do like working with younger children. So grad school came to me because of education, and in order to get my teaching license, I had to get my master's.
Yeah.
But the program that was at, and I'm here kind of representing Jersey, so shout out to Monmouth University, where I got my master's in early childhood education, and I got my doctorate in educational leadership there. But as I was getting my master's, everyone was so helpful, and again, that creativity. I was noticing the demands on preschool children. Now they're a little bit more lax since COVID, but there was a big demand on them to have literacy skills to be ready for kindergarten. Like, not just know all the letters, but know all the sounds, get ready to read practically. And it was a lot. So I had an idea in my master's, when I was getting a master's in early childhood, getting my license. I'm looking at my little ones and I'm saying, I think this kind of Sesame Street letter of the week thing, I think there's actually something to it. I mean, why not? Like, I view literacy and language as a gift, just like music is. It's such a wonderful skill. Why not learn it if you can? And, does the age even matter? I mean, it does cognitively, but I'm saying if it's done in a playful, developmentally appropriate way. So then I had mentors at Monmouth who said to me, like my chair, Dr. Carrie Rizzuto, she said to me, Laura, you got to stay. You got to get your doctorate and stay. Yeah. Like, you have this idea, you need to test it out. You kind of need to research it so the research is given to the whole world and test if letter of the week actually works. And it's my whole dissertation, I defended it. I got amazing data, although my other mentor, my writing mentor, Dean, Dr. John Henning, former dean, he would always say data. So now sometimes I say data instead of data. But he looked over all of my data, and so did everybody on my committee, including a shout out to one of my amazing readers and helpers on my dissertation, Dr. Lauren Schultz. And they said to me, this is looking like it actually works. And it's going to get published. So long story short, when you're going for graduate school, sometimes you could possibly do research or look into something that will help a greater good, or it helps you find your life's calling, your purpose. It gives you more time. And especially since I'm here, Warrior Radio, Alliance University, I think most students here probably have a passion that aligns somewhere with nonprofits. Yeah. And the thing is, the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program accepts some nonprofits you wouldn't think of. So a lot of the loans and everything, even from my graduate school, I'm okay. I'm in PSLF. I'm in Public Service Loan Forgiveness. So if that's a fear, I want to throw it out there that that's possible, to just go for it, go for it. Especially if people tell you you're on to something. Yeah. People tell you you're onto something, then go study it, go for it, definitely.
Current role as a school administrator. You can talk about that.
We're going right down the line.
Well, it's it's funny, when you told me stuff, you're programs manager, school director, violinist, researcher, writer, you have a lot of hands in the pot.
So.
It must be fun though.
And the weird thing is, it circles back to the very beginning and the roots of, like I said, that empathy that a teacher had on me as a young 12-year-old, stars in my eyes, I want to learn how to play the violin. My Russian teacher's well, you have to practice. So she, though, was the co-director. She really took a huge directorial role, though, at the Monmouth Conservatory. So as I loved the school and my love for the overall school, I was accidentally exposed to how the sausage is made, so to speak, and school administration. So it was kind of like destiny or kismet or something like
Yeah.
that. So I had like little jobs when I was younger in high school, answering the phone like, "Hello, Monmouth Conservatory of Music," and I thought, well, this job, I mean, I don't think I'll ever do something as cool as this, but I love to teach and be like my teacher, but do something meaningful. So along the road of teaching and meeting different administrators and then going and getting my master's, slowly, like I was talking about, that small voice that talks to you and says like, "Oh, you gotta study violin," or "This is your thing," and to like listen to it. I think it's different than a gut. There was something that said, "I know it seems scary, but you can do this. You can do an administrator role. You really can. Especially if you can do it your way." Because there's lots of different ways to run, to administrate, and there's different theories about that. So when I was completing my doctorate, I was actually thinking about walking away from my beloved music school because, like I said, that little voice that said violin, that said stay for your master's, it was now saying, you need to run something, because I helped so many children. I taught preschool for over 10 years. So one classroom is 15 kids, so 15 times 10, it's like 150 children I worked with, right? My math is
impact.
yeah. So then I said, well, no, I know I can work with more. I can work with more kids. I think I need to be a director. I need to run something. And I'm like, I want to go to Monmouth to get not just the doctorate, but a superintendent's license.
Cool.
And at that time, that's when the need presented itself, and that's when the role was an opportunity, and opportunity knocks. But opportunity knocks. But what is the expression? Today is just like the expression day, it's there, but not for a long time.
Yeah.
So you have to take advantage. So that's absolutely what I did. I decided to throw my hat into the ring and send and have a talk with everybody at the Basie Center for the Arts, and they welcomed me, and they welcomed my ideas with open arms, and it was just amazing. And so, like I said, my family and myself, like, we view kind of everything that happened like some sort of fairy tale, how everything was set in place so smoothly. But that doesn't mean that people can't make their own career path and life path and follow your bliss.
Absolutely.
But it just takes work. And that's not to say like I didn't work. I mean, I did study violin, and it was very hard. It's something that continues to be hard. And if I don't practice a certain amount of hours, or if I don't keep my hands on the instrument, you get rusty. So there's some maintenance
Constantly
there.
learning, right?
Constantly learning.
Yeah.
So when it comes to being an administrator, that's how I fell into that role. One thing just led to another, and all of my skill sets built where I was like the person who could really do it and understand the school, where it came from, who were the former directors, what are the students' names already. I was just there, and it was a great fit. I've learned that I have to be very patient, understanding. I really need to take my time analyzing. Some people don't read emails. I read emails. I write emails very meticulously. I'll send the same information over and over. But most importantly, I have a goal in mind that makes me understand the bigger picture, and like getting back to my earlier teachers about patience and kindness and empathy and staying positive while trying to change things at the school, or handle, like, not that there's disputes. I mean, piano teachers aren't getting into fisticuffs or anything like that, but to iron out situations, to smooth things over, to kind of like to allude to the Bible, like what all the great kings and everything had to do when they had a situation presented upon them, and this like great Solomon type like wisdom would come to them. So I don't know how, but I think it's just through life experience of getting enough wisdom to help the teachers, help the parents, help the students. And I think if your heart's in the right place too, and you're a good communicator, it's possible, not that anybody can be an administrator, but that if anyone was thinking about it, it's a very interesting field. It's a lot of responsibility, but if you feel like that calling, again, like I'm the person who needs to do this because I know I can help everybody, not make necessarily everybody happy, but just have a good compromise where everybody is content. and the ship is sailing, and we're not sinking, and we're doing great. And if you have that much, it's amazing. Then bigger projects, like I'm planning concerts.
Yeah.
I'm planning concerts upon concerts. I'm going to plan all music fall programming by this June. It's all going to be in. So then registration's over the summer. Yeah. Well, that's another thing. Did I say you have to be organized? Yeah, organization's a big one too. But like I said, I feel like very at home, and I feel very, very, very blessed and thankful and very grateful to be in the position where I am.
Yeah.
You know, even if some people would say, and some people have told me, like, I wish you could just play more violin, like teach less, all this typing, Excel sheets.
Yeah.
They're like, no, you should be playing more. And I'm like, you know, I have just enough of a balance, just enough of what I play and what I pass on to my students, that I feel, like I said, I feel very content. And I feel very content, especially when I hire and bring on other teachers. I know they're like-minded like me. You know.
And then you help create an atmosphere, right?
Yes, you create an atmosphere, and you create like the Knights of the Round Table,
Yeah.
sort of, and you have your team. And what I like too is, like, now I'm in a bit of a driver's seat where I'm talking to the other music teachers, and I know, like, our hearts are all in the right place. We all have the same mission, goal, not just wanting the best for the students, but really acknowledging things that maybe in the early 2000s, with, you know, 2 classically trained Russians in charge, as beautiful and wonderful as they were, we acknowledge a lot more genres than classical now. So, you know, there's been some nice, healthy, just refreshing changes, we'll call it, you know. And it
Well, you
makes
got to
it a
grow,
great place
right?
to work. Right, you have
Adapt,
to
grow.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a dark, but when they like adapt or die, it's true. You need to adapt. You need to adapt to the environment, evolve. Because if you stay stuck, stagnant, can kind of.
Yeah.
And that's with any industry. That's not
That is, and that's the way I think our little shop around the corner music school has been so blessed in and of itself, is that when the Monmouth Conservatory was gifted to the Basie Center for the Arts, that it gave it room to grow, and that it's still growing, and that, I mean, when people were talking about, even I think of when I was starting to get ready to graduate from my undergrad in '08, and the housing market crisis and the big bubble that burst, and the way the economy was looking, a lot of really nice mom and pop businesses didn't make it. So it was just amazing that this music school that was catering to like a niche of a really specialized form of art, music. Oh my gosh, you know, it's almost one of the first things schools cut. So it was amazing that the conservatory is still alive and thriving, and like you said, it's growing, and it's just absolutely a wonderful institution in Red Bank. Some people are even saying Red Bank is like the little Greenwich, or it's like the Greenwich Village of New Jersey. Yeah, it's an awesome town. If I don't know if you ever visited Red Bank, it's really awesome.
Okay. Musical memory for you. What's your favorite musical memory? This is hard because you've done so much, but like when you close your eyes and you think, maybe it's first recital, maybe it's a small little thing, maybe it's a huge performance, but when you think, you're like, that was top notch. What's your favorite musical memory?
My favorite musical memory. Ooh, I have some that all tie, but
No, you could mention if there was like a common thread. That's fine.
Yes. So when I was, I guess, about 15, and I went to Red Bank Regional High School, they were one of the first high schools in New Jersey to buy the license to put on Les Miserables.
Oof.
And it's
Such
when
a classic.
and it's when it just, like I said, the license just became released for schools. This is like 2003 now, I'm talking.
I'm impressed they got the light. Like they did
Yes.
it up.
Yes. We hired, I was a student at the time in high school, but the administration at the time at my high school, they hired these amazing ringer violinists. I mean, there were a sea of violins in the pit of my high school, and to sit among them and join them and play legitimate music, it was the first time I felt like a professional.
Yeah.
and I was playing very difficult. The pit music for these musicals is no joke. It was very difficult stuff. And I remember keeping up with the person next to me, and it was after the first night, the first show, and I didn't know you could wear comfortable black. I wore like a dress. I wore like a full dress because I took it so seriously. And I remember standing up when it was done, and we played like the encore piece or whatever, how the show closes, and everyone in the pit just applauding. And I got like this, you're in, like you're in, kid, like you made it, you held your own, you played through the whole gig book. So that was really something. Cool. That was really cool. Another cool musical memory is that I played with an interesting orchestra. That was TCNJ's band and the New Jersey Youth Symphony, NJSY, New Jersey State Youth Orchestra, senior level division. And we combined, TCNJ and us, and we created the All-American Youth and Concert Orchestra.
Oh, cool.
And we played in Hungary, in Germany, and in the Czech Republic. And we played a bathhouse. But it was an amazing outdoor bathhouse where there were huge statues with like overflowing fountains and all these people it was like a Roman thing. It was unbelievable. It was like some sort of like
Czech Republic?
Versailles. No, I think it was in Hungary.
Oh, okay.
And here we are in gray sweatshirts, t-shirts. Yeah. Like, we're the All-American Youth in Concert, And guess what we played? John Philip Sousa. We played like bum bum ba dum bum.
Yeah,
bum, 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 bum. We played American music for the Europeans.
That's awesome.
In a bathhouse. They loved it.
Yeah.
They ate it up. But there was it was very surreal. I felt like I was in like a Fellini movie or something.
Yeah.
It was really surreal to play like these tunes that I imagine with like fireworks and stuff.
Yeah.
In Europe. And then like on the Danube. Yeah. And at Checkpoint Charlie. Like it was just the whole trip was incredible. That was a while back, but it was one of those weird special memories.
Yeah, did that happen? One of those things where you're like, yeah, that's cool.
It was cool. It was very cool. And again, it was one of those follow-up life experiences. It's like, well, I must really be a professional now because I'm playing John Philip Sousa for people in Prague.
Yeah.
So, I think I'm in. And it was those moments that meant the most. Not necessarily even the concerts where I was in my 20s and I had everything under my belt and it was like, oh yeah, and I'm playing at this amazing hall or I'm going to go play here or there. It was really the early victories in my career because that like win and that feeling of confidence, it kept me going. It kept me motivated for the next one and the next one. And it's very hard when you're young because people will try to still pigeonhole you and put you in a box like you are a student.
Yeah.
But then when you do these great like Herculean feats and you play these amazing gigs, everyone's just like, wow. Like proving yourself.
Yeah. Imposter syndrome's real. So like when you can
It is real. It is real.
So when you feel that validation.
Yeah, you got to think of the David and Goliath analogy. It's like, yeah, I'm not super tall, but I got a slingshot and I know what I can do, and that's going to be that. Yeah, and you just kind of go for it. Yep. So, yeah, I treasure those memories, and I tell them to my students, and I tell those stories to my students, and they like hearing it. They love hearing it. I even have really great stories when things went wrong, and those are great too. Maybe not on the air, but I tell them to my students too, because when you're young, you have lots of concerts where it's like you mess up, or maybe something goes wrong because you never realized that on a beach it would be windy and all your sheet music would blow away. So there's like little things like that. You learn. It's all part of the story, It's all part of the story. It's all part of the being a musician. It's all part of learning how to do that.
What's your favorite place you've traveled to because of music? Maybe it's one of those. Maybe it's Hungary. But is there a place where you?
I've been to Germany many times, but honestly, it must be because of just how great the trip is. And this will sound funny because I'm not going to talk about a European country. I just think Boston is such an interesting city.
Cool.
And I've played the Boston Early Music Festivals many times. And what's so interesting about that is everyone's in this kind of club where they're into lutes and theorbos
Yep.
and these gut-stringed instruments, and the whole city embraces it. It's just something, I mean, it's way more acknowledged now than it was like even 10 years ago. But when I go to Boston, just the whole city is just a living, breathing, historical, that like Americana,
Yeah.
like, you know, it's just very, very cool. I love that feeling of walking down a street, but like an old street, because I do like American history. I'm very
Yeah.
fond of it. So Boston was just one of the coolest, very friendly, so like filled with so many historical goodies and stuff. But I will say one of the most poignant places I've ever been to was probably Checkpoint Charlie.
Yeah.
It would, you know, to see how people tried
Absolutely.
to go underground and smuggle things through and get from one side to the other side. That was a very powerful place to be. Yeah, for music especially. It was weird. Like, all right, when the tour's done, rehearsal.
Yeah.
Get your shirt on. We're
Yeah.
gonna go play.
Okay, last question.
Last question.
That's not about music.
Ooh, okay.
Favorite hobbies outside of music. So what do you do for fun outside of music?
What do I do for fun outside of music? Okay. So I've studied voice acting, and
Cool.
voice acting goes hand in hand with how much I love all things like not I don't want to say pop culture, but then again I don't want to make eyebrows raised when I say the word anime.
Yeah.
But I know, right? But it's true. Anime, cartoons, the art of animation, like that. I view it all as an art form and
Yeah.
as a real form of media, and as something that it takes so many talented people. Like even the other day, and this is not an anime, but I was rewatching Jim Henson's 1986, I think, or 1988, The Storyteller, where he did
Yeah.
these like really cool like German fairy tales with really like
He was such a visionary.
yes, with the puppets and oh my
Yeah.
god. So I love all of that, and I used to go to New York Comic Con very frequently, and
Cool.
I would cosplay, and I've dressed up as many different characters, and I have
you
all
have a
kinds of
favorite?
costumes.
Or was it very...
Okay, so I've been many different characters from all different, like I've been different anime characters and whatever, but I went as Wonder Woman a few times, and one year I repeated my Wonder Woman outfit on the New Jersey boardwalk in Asbury Park,
Cool.
and we have a thing called Zombie Walk, okay, where everyone wears like, like the makeup, right? So I was dressed still as Wonder Woman, though, on this zombie walk, and I just did, like, very minor things.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get the most use out of my costume. So I'm going for the walk, and this little kid is, like, talking about how scared he is, and then I walk by, and he's like, Mommy, I'm not scared anymore. Wonder Woman's here.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
that's a day maker there.
That was just, and it was true. It really happened.
Yeah.
Like, Mommy, I'm not scared anymore. Look, Wonder Woman's here.
Yeah.
And that just made me go like, oh, like I'm so happy.
Yeah.
Like I'm not just some nerd, and my hobby is some kind of meaning. And then I do collect like the little action figures and like the little plushies and all the stuff in the stores. And I like to watch travelogue videos on YouTube of people going to Japan, where you can buy like all the real specialty like towns. I'm gonna say this wrong. Akibara, where you can go down the streets and go in these huge buildings and buy all the anime merchandise and stuff like that. So yeah, but it connects me to the students too. One of the students at the music school the other day was like, you know, Miss Dr. Laura, because they get mixed up. They're like, Miss Dr. Laura, did you watch like the new season of she was talking about like My Hero Academia or something like that. And I was like, yeah, I've seen it. That doesn't mean I'm the biggest fan of it, but I'm like, oh yeah, you know, I'm enthusiastic. So yeah, that's
relatable.
my side hobby.
Yeah.
Yes. But I gotta say, this I get from my father, and my family kind of laughs and rolls their eyes. He exposed me to a lot of like Joseph Campbell and the concept of the hero's journey, and how that book inspired George Lucas, who made Star Wars, right? About your life path and your journey. And I think everybody needs heroes. We need heroes in art, though, just to reflect on and to make choices. And if you think of yourself as the hero. Like I said, even that David and Goliath analogy, right? If you think yourself in that way, all the things we talked about today, music, creativity, if you want a bigger role in administration, or even my kind of journey, I think it's something that somebody could, like I said, they could be the next person in line to do it, or they could be, the chosen one.
Yeah, yeah.
They could be they could do it. They can do all of it. It's just about, being confident and being brave and going for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Before we let you go, I want you to mention, I don't know if you have any like website references. Is there something you want to mention people can look up after this interview if they feel, you can even talk about the Basie Center for the Arts website, if you have a personal one, where people can see, I don't know if there's a YouTube channel with performances, all that stuff. Mention all of it.
So I would say I have, I hang my hat in a lot of different websites.
Yep.
I have an education type blog. I have a website that talks about my discography, but I really love it when some of my students, they'll say to me, "Oh, like Miss Laura or Miss Dr. Laura, I didn't know you were on Spotify."
Yeah.
So if anyone searches Laura Patillo, I am on Spotify. But what's so interesting is, if anyone goes onto Google, there's different things that come up with Laura Patillo Ed.D. Those are a lot of my publications, my writings, because I wrote about adversity that children go through.
Cool.
And I published with the New Zealand Journal of Educational Studies. I actually have a DOI Google Scholar number and published articles. So if people search Laura Patillo Ed.D., my scholarly stuff comes up. If you search Laura Patillo violin, Google's oh, do you mean this artist? And there's a Google artist thing. But I do want to give a shout out to, not just a shout out, I really want to recognize that the Basie Center for the Arts and their education department has worked very hard on making some unbelievable offerings.